Electrostatics, example of a uniform circular plate charge. Mathematically, this will not be a simple example either. So we're showing on this slide, we have a circular plate. It is infinitely thin in the z direction, but circular plate has a uniform charge density rho s, has a radius capital R, and we would like to observe the electric flux density along the z-axis at some position z, or some height z, above the circular plate. So the first question is, what is the total charge? So our first step in the recipe that we laid out in our theory lecture, draw the problem, which we've already done. Choose a coordinate system. Well, this kind of looks like a cylinder, much more of a cylinder than it does a block or a sphere, so cylindrical coordinates make sense. Now we write our general equation for calculating the total charge when we have a two-dimensional or a surface charge. And so we integrate that surface charge density over the whole area to get total charge. Now that equation is independent of the coordinate system, and so the next thing we need to do is plug in an expression for those things and write ds in cylindrical coordinates. So the expression for our rho s is just rho s because it's a constant. And we can refer back to our discussion in cylindrical coordinates and recall that the differential area in this case will simply be rho d phi. And so that's what we'll put in for ds into our integral. And the last thing we need to do is choose our limits of integration. So we're integrating over rho and phi. Rho is the radius extending outward from the z-axis. So it makes sense that we would integrate from 0 out to r. We're not going to integrate from negative r all the way to positive r. We're going to integrate from the center out to r. So our limits are from 0 to r. Now in doing that, we're not covering the other half. So when we integrate over phi, our angle, we need to make sure that we go all the way around so that we cover the full area of this circle. So we're going to integrate phi from 0 all the way around to 2 pi. Now we have an integral that we can solve. So the first thing we'll do is recognize that our surface charge density is a constant, and we can bring that to the outside of the integrals. Then we'll group together the rho integral and bring that inside of the phi integral. The phi integral will be easy. So we integrate rho, we end up with rho squared over 2, and of course we integrate that from 0 to r. So we'll evaluate this expression at r, and then subtract that expression evaluated at 0. And we just get r squared, which is a constant and can come to the outside of our integral over phi. And of course, this is a very simple integral too. That's just equal to 2 pi. And so we found our total charge. It is pi r squared rho s. And recognize what pi r squared is. It's the area of this circle. And in fact, any time we have a uniform charge density, it's the charge density times the area of that surface. And that will give us the total charge. So that's what we conclude from this, where S is the area of the circle, the pi r squared, but this accounts for it being any shape. So this is really the equation that we'll come away with when we interpret this result. Now we would like to calculate the total electric field at our observation point above the surface charge. And we follow essentially the same recipe. We draw the problem, we've done that. We'll choose a coordinate system. Well, our problem still looks like a cylinder, so we'll stick with cylindrical coordinates. We write our general equation, which is this. It's essentially just a surface integral over inside what is essentially just the expression for the field around a point charge, but generalized for a little differential area element. We integrate that over the area of the charge. That gives us our total field. Well, we can factor out the rho s over 4 pi because those are constants. And then we can change this ratio of unit vector AR over R squared to vector r over magnitude of vector r cubed. We need expressions for these things now. Well, our surface charge density is just surface charge density. That's an easy one. But we have this vector r. What the vector r does is connect where we are in our integral on that surface charge to our observation point, and that's what we're showing over here. So to calculate r, it's the vector position of our observation point minus the vector position of wherever it is in our surface charge in the integral. So we have our position of our observation point where we're observing the electric field, and we subtract our position wherever we happen to be in our integral. So this last expression is our expression for that vector r. We need differential surface area. Well, we just grabbed that from our discussion in cylindrical coordinates a while ago, and that's an easy one. We need the magnitude of r, and that is just rho squared plus z squared, which we grabbed from up here. Notice there's no phi in here. And if we could imagine this vector r as this base is spinning around, we can see by observation that phi does not actually affect the magnitude of that vector. So it does not appear in that equation. Now that we have all this stuff, now we plug it all back into our integral and choose the limits of integration. That's the last step on this slide. So this top expression is our vector r. This bottom expression is the magnitude of that vector r cubed. And then we have to choose our limits of integration. Oh yeah, and over here is our differential area ds. So we're integrating over phi and rho, just like we did for total charge. So we use the same limits. We integrate from rho from 0 to r, and then phi from 0 all the way around to 2 pi. So here we are. What's next? How do we solve this? Due to the symmetry of the problem, if you can imagine the electric field, let's say we're integrating and we're right here in our surface charge. We draw a line up here, and that will create a field in this direction. And that happened due to the differential charge at this point. Well, now if I come to the opposite side of the origin, and I look at the field generated at this point, now I have a field in this direction. And in fact, the components from those two in the rho direction perfectly cancel. So I only ever end up with a z component of the electric field. So that means I can just drop the phi and rho components from the integration because I know that they will cancel. So they're gone. And we can simplify things down a little bit. Our z is a constant. That can come to the outside of the integration. And we're just left with the rho squared plus z squared to the 3/2 powers. So I bring it to the numerator, and that's why you see the negative 3/2 in here. And also the unit vector in the z direction has come to the outside because that's not a function of rho or phi either. The next thing we can do, we notice that this expression here is not a function of phi. So what we can do is swap the order of the integrals and isolate our phi integral. And this is something that came up in our total charge and was equal to 2 pi. So that's an easy step to do. That's 2 pi, and then we can bring that to the outside of the integral. And there we are. Our next challenge is to integrate this over rho. So what we'll do now is recognize that this expression here is what's making life a little bit difficult to perform the integration. So let's define an auxiliary variable that's equal to rho squared plus z squared. And what we would like to do then is convert this integral, rather than integrate over rho, we integrate over v. Well, to do that, one thing we need is to put dv in here instead of d rho, so we'll differentiate this expression to relate the two. Well, z is not a function of rho, so that just cancels, and we end up with dv equals 2 rho d rho, and we can solve that equation for d rho. And so this is the expression that we can throw into our integral. Well, if we're converting our integral over to v, we need new limits of the integration. So what are they? Well, right now the first limit is rho equal to 0. So what we can do is go back to this expression, which is how we're defining v, and plug in 0 for rho. So the first limit is z squared. Our second limit is when rho equals r. So we plug r into this expression and we integrate up to r squared plus z squared. So that's our value of v2. We're integrating from v1 to v2, and we figured out that's really z squared to r squared plus z squared. So we integrate from z squared to r squared plus z squared, and we've put in our expression for d rho, and we've replaced rho squared plus z squared with a v. But this is something that's easier to integrate. And another thing happens. The rho that was left over here cancels with this rho, and our rho's are completely gone from the integration. Now this is something that we can integrate much easier. So here's our integral from the previous slide. This is easy to integrate. So the antiderivative of v to the minus 3/2 is v to the negative 1/2 divided by negative 1/2. And of course we have a definite integral here, so we evaluate the expression at r squared plus z squared and subtract the expression evaluated at z squared. But we can simplify this a little bit. We can pull the negative 1/2 out to our constants out here, so we're just left with 1 over square root of v. That makes it a little bit easier to evaluate the expression at our limits. So this is 1 over v squared evaluated at the second limit minus 1 over square root of v evaluated at the first limit. And we can bring the negative sign on the inside, and we have our final answer for the total field observed along the z-axis at a height z above a uniform finite circular plate.